guys ever heard about Clubhouse games? No, not that one. I'm talking about the original Clubhouse games. You know, the original collection of about 44 minigames or so on the original Nintendo DS released back in 2005. No? Well, you probably should because it's really good. I only got into playing these games very recently. Like about 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. I decided to pick up the ROM for the original game and start playing it. Then, shortly afterwards, I decided, hey, there's a sequel on Switch, and I've heard about it in passing, and the main thing I remember from it is that the tanks mode isn't that good, but all the other games are pretty good, so I might as well go ahead and pick that up now. And lo and behold, I did. Now, my opinions between the two games are pretty positive. I do like the Switch game. Like, 51 games is quite a lot for what it is. It has a lot of content. The game has online play, meaning that you can actually play with other people. I'm surprised the online actually has players still, but then again I shouldn't be surprised because board games are kind of a timeless concept. Video games won't entirely render board games irrelevant because they're sort of a different way of playing games. They're meant to be something that you can experience in person. However, being able to enjoy those things in a video game is also quite interesting. And in the case of this game, I think it does it really well. Utilizing the DS's touchscreen, of course, and stylus, it helps mimic the tactility of moving around pieces or flinging out cards, that sort of thing. You know, stuff you would actually do with your hands, but meant for like a smaller screen. That being said, of course, this game is 18 years old, so I don't know how many people actually have the original copy. And obviously, as I mentioned, I picked up a ROM of this game, meaning that I'm emulating it, except I don't care because it's morally justified to emulate Nintendo's games. James Stephanie Sterling said so it must be allowed. The other reason I say it's more legitimate to emulate this game is because at the time of this recording, the eShop on the DS is already closed. So it's not like you'd be able to download this off the eShop, and that means any physical copy for any DS or 3DS game is going to be expensive as all hell. So yeah, emulating this game is probably going to be the only option to experience it for most people. It was, at least for me, and I do not regret it at all in the slightest. So, with all that sketchiness out of the way on whether or not emulating should be allowed in the first place, spoiler alert, it probably should, allow me to give you this review on why you should play Clubhouse games on the Nintendo DS. Loading the game, we have 3 different menus: single player, multiplayer, and settings. Single player has a total of 3 modes: free play, stamp, and mission. Multiplayer has local wireless and Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, which no longer works. And the settings lets you change your player icon, your player name, which is going to be the console's name by default, as well as the sound settings, which let you turn the music on or off, or change the soundtrack entirely, because there is a secondary pop soundtrack which exists, though I haven't really listened to it before, and I haven't unlocked it because you need to finish stuff in single player in order to unlock it. The main draw of this game, I think, would be the single player, since that's the main thing that's going to work unless you have a physical copy of the game. In single player, you have free play, which lets you play every single game that you've had unlocked at that point, which, yeah, there are going to be a few games that are locked at the beginning. You have most of them, just not all. You can unlock those games by reaching them at the end of the levels in Stamps mode, which is more or less the campaign mode of the game where you play through each of the different games in a set order, with you needing to clear objectives, as in winning the game or getting certain placements, in order to earn stamps, which you clear in order to get through each individual game and proceed to the next one. And then finally you have mission mode, which is a series of different challenges which you need to complete for certain games. I haven't actually touched the mission mode yet, but I have touched stamps mode for a bit, though most of your time is probably going to be spent in free play, as that's where most of the games exist. Each of the games are split into 7 different categories. You have basic, intermediate, and advanced card games, basic and advanced board games, variety games, action games, and single player games, totaling up to about 44 games. Of course, when you start off playing the game, some of the games are going to be locked off because you need to unlock them in the Stamps mode, but from the get-go, you have access to a lot of content at the start. All of the games are extremely fun to play, or at least I would presume all of them are. Like I said, I haven't played every single one of them, but they're generally easy to get used to, as they're all controlled utilizing the touchscreen, which in my case, because I'm emulating, I had to use a mouse for all this, which works fine for most of the games, But when it comes to some of the action games like bowling and billiards, it can be a little bit finicky. And by a little, I mean bowling likes to throw my balls into the gutter way more frequently than it should. But when it comes to other games which involve moving around pieces or moving cards, all that stuff is perfectly fine doing it with a mouse. So that's nice. If you're going to play this with an original DS or a 3DS, then I hope to God that you still have your stylus, because you're going to be wanting to use that a lot. And not having it is kind of annoying. Not that you couldn't play this game with your fingers, I'm sure you could. I'm just saying it would probably be a lot less accurate in that regard. Seeing as this is a party game which has a lot of different mini games in it, I don't exactly know how I would go about discussing the gameplay, since each of the games has their own various rules, and a lot of them could be really in-depth. And that's before considering that several of the games allow you to customize the rule sets, which allows for even more variety in the stuff that can be done, aside from just the number of CPU players and their main difficulty, of which there's 3, and the hard CPU could be really tough on a lot of these games, just saying. Something that I can actually gush about when it comes to this game is the presentation, which I really, really like. Even though this is a DS game from 2005, it just emanates style with how it's presented. Looking between this game and the recent game on Switch, yeah, Clubhouse 51 Games has a very clean, minimalistic style, but this actually looks like an interface related to a Clubhouse where you would play these types of games. I mean, it's called Clubhouse Games for a reason. It might as well look like a clubhouse. Call me nostalgic for the retro style of this game, but this retro style looks slick as all hell, and I am all for it. And oh my god, the music! The music of this game for a DS era game? I don't understand why it's this good, but it just is. I mean, just listen to these. Music I've been playing for this video so far has been from the OST of this game alone. And trust me, there are more songs than just this that I haven't even listened to yet. I'm sure they exist out there because, again, I haven't played every single game. All of them seem to carry this jazz style with them, which I'm impressed they were able to bring a jazz style like this into a DS game, given that the sound card for the DS wouldn't be that powerful and wouldn't have that high quality compared to something like CDs. If by some stroke of luck the people that worked on the music for this game end up watching this video, my hat is off to you guys. You did a fantastic job. So well, in fact, that it ended up bringing me to do something that I didn't think I was going to do, and that was try to do a song in jazz style on my own. I ended up making a jazz song simply because I was inspired by the theme used for Solitaire, I Doubt It, and Last Card. That being said, I don't think it's as good as the stuff that's in Clubhouse Games, but it's at least close. The aesthetic of this game is something that I just can't stop gushing over. And I haven't even unlocked everything that's in it, since it's possible to customize the card dealing areas. You see this green background over here over this game of I Doubt It? Yeah, that could be changed to whatever colors I unlock in the future. By default, you have access to this blue set, which makes all the cards gray and changes the background color to blue. And I have this cloth set, which makes it so that the cards are plaid green, but those are the only ones I have access to right now. There's more of them. I know that they're unlockable by playing the games multiple different times, or at least winning them multiple times, but I don't know the exact requirements for getting all of them. I just know that you can, and it adds another layer of customization to these games. Which, yeah, I'm surprised that a DS game from 2005 is this deep. It still blows my mind, honestly. I wish we got more games like this. Another aspect of this game that I feel it's important to touch up on is the download play functionality. For those of you that don't know, many DS games came with this function called download play, which essentially made it so that way, as long as one person had a copy of a game, then other people that didn't have a copy of that game would be able to enjoy it. Basically, it was a way of being able to play local multiplayer without everyone needing to have a same copy of the game. That being said, when you were playing most of these games with download play, they would intentionally take out features that would make it so that way you'd be more inclined to buy it yourself, such as making it so that you couldn't play as other characters in Mario Kart DS. If you were playing on download play, everyone else that was using download play to play it had to play as Shy Guy. However, in this game, I feel like the download functionality is actually a little bit better, since here there's not really character portraits to worry about that much, and if you play this game with download play, then it allows you to play basically all of the games that are multiplayer, with the exception of the 3 single player games, which are the Solitaire, Mahjong, and Escape games. It allows you to play all of those with anyone that's connecting your console via download play, which means, yeah, you could basically play the entire library of games with a bunch of friends as long as one of you has the game, which is pretty exciting. Plus, there's extra functionality that exists in it that I didn't actually get to try because I'm emulating the game. You could actually utilize the PictoChat functionality that exists in this game. Or rather, it has its own chat box feature. You see it at the bottom of the screen around the center, and it essentially functions like PictoChat did back in the day, where you could essentially write or draw your own notes and then use that to chat with the other players. Yeah, it's pretty cool in concept. I just wish that I could actually try it out, but I'm playing with an emulator. I can't actually play the game physically, which is why I should probably get a physical copy at some point, and why I plan to. To me, this is one of the best DS titles I've ever played, hands down. It's a lot of fun, there is quite a lot of content. The download play functionality on this is actually really good, and the aesthetic it pleases me in so many different ways. I just really like how it looks, I like how all the games play so far, aside from bowling right now, but that's my fault for playing on an emulator. I don't see why people aren't talking about it as much as they probably should. It doesn't really help that the Switch game exists and that's a lot more popular. I just feel like most people who think of Clubhouse games are just going to think of this and not immediately realize that this exists. I'm not going to go out and say that the DS game is better, because both games are really good and they have their pros and cons. I say that as if there's a lot of cons. There's not really many cons between the two. I would say if you're looking to try to play the game online, yeah, you're going to have an easier time if you're trying to play the Switch game, since, well, more people are going to have the Switch game. But just because the Switch game exists, I don't think that means that the DS game deserves to be forgotten. The saying, victim of one's own innovations, comes to mind here. And while I wouldn't say the DS game is completely outclassed, I would say that it's completely overlooked thanks to the existence of 51 worldwide classics. Especially when this game is, in its own right, a classic. I think that more people should take a look at this game for what it is. And what it is a damn good party game.